It's season 7 of Radio Free 501c, the podcast of Rogue Tulips Consulting. We hit the 300 episode milestone this year, so don't forget to subscribe or follow us. We have a lot more to talk about. This episode is supported by USAE News, the weekly community newspaper of associations, CVBs, and hotels. Learn more about USAE News at usaenews.com. We're wrapping up Thankful for the Arts Month this November here at Radio Free 501c, and we're wrapping up this series with another first-time guest. It's Trudy Hughes from the Aramount School of Arts and Crafts in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. She's going to talk with us about art for all. It's a great way to end November. It's November 24th, 2025. Welcome to episode 308. It's almost the end of November. We're getting really close to Thanksgiving, at least here in the United States. So if you are planning to get together with family and friends, I hope that you found your perfect turkey for that Thanksgiving meal. Hi, I'm Cecilia Supp, and welcome to this edition of Radio Free 501c, where we are wrapping up Thankful for the Arts Month here this November. I'm very pleased to be closing out this series with Trudy Hughes. And Trudy's going to introduce herself in a moment. But before we move into the content of this episode, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this big, beautiful world of ours. Because despite all the tension around us, it's still a pretty great place to be. So I also want to remind you, if you have not yet subscribed or followed us on your favorite service, please do. We're well past 300 episodes now, and we still have so much to talk about. You don't want to miss any of this great conversation that we have every week here at Radio Free 501c, brought to you by Rogue Tulips Consulting, my company, and also supported by our partner, USAE News. So we want to thank USAE for supporting the podcast and for connecting us with Trudy, who is here to talk with us about art for all. Trudy, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. It's a great topic to wrap up with. Would you like to say hello to the audience and tell us a little about yourself?
Oh, thank you so much, Cecilia. It is wonderful to be with you today, and hello to everyone who's engaging with us. We're proud to be a part of your community and hope you'll become a part of the Aramont community. I am honored to serve as the team leader of the Aramont School of Arts and Crafts. In my role as CEO, it is a privilege and honor to work with upwards of 40 team members, really bringing about just a diversity of wonderful, enriching experiences in the arts and crafts realm. We have also wonderful governance leadership from a dynamic board, and then just a host of thousands of community members around the planet who've either participated as a student or an instructor or a board member or just a steward and a stakeholder within us. So it is an honor to be at this point and to be in this leadership role with Aramont. This is the beginning of my 5th year here at Aramont, over 40 years in nonprofit management, and just cannot think of a better place to be as I approach the end of my career, I think, and loving the years here at the Aramont School of Arts and Crafts.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I am fascinated by Aramon and what it does. Although I've never been there, I'm hoping to get to Gatlinburg to visit the school. And for those watching the video version of the podcast, they can see two beautiful pieces of art behind you. And because you had mentioned to me as we were prepping, you're at a different office outside of Gatlinburg, and you display some of the work of the artist. And for those who are listening, could you quickly tell us about these two pieces because they're beautiful?
I would love to. So, yes, we have a small office in Knoxville where we also maintain a gallery and a marketplace. And we started that in April of 2022 and are just really thrilled to get to be in these wonderful spaces. But everywhere we go, we want great art to surround us always. And for our friends and colleagues who experience our spaces there to enjoy that great art and craft work as well. So the glazed ceramic, which is over my head, is from Jordan Butane. Jordan is a wonderful artist whose work is just exceptional. This piece is for sale. If anyone were interested, they could let us know at Aramont. In particular, could reach out to Heather Wetzel, who heads up our galleries and exhibitions, and Heather could connect them so that this could be their own personal item to enjoy at their home or business. And then also in the other direction over my head is a wonderful lithograph, and this is by Mariana Cruz. And this too is for sale. It is matted and framed, and just a gorgeous item, which would look great in office space as it does here, but perhaps in a den area or a home office might be a wonderful spot for it. These are just two examples of literally hundreds of artists that we are so fortunate to be in community with as they grow and develop their work and utilize the Aramont galleries and marketplace as one of the places where they can display and have their items for sale. And we see this as such an important piece of our mission work, which is encouraging and motivating and lifting up these wonderful artists by displaying their work and making it available through that such display so that folks who are interested in adding these items to their collection have an easy path to do so. So really, we love their creative process, we love their work, but we also know they, like all of us, are in the process of having to make a living. And so this is one way that we can help them with that as well as their creative journey.
Yes. Oh, I think that's a wonderful service for the artist. You're such a big part of the community in the Gatlinburg area, and I think people around the country want to know more about how they can support artists. And so reaching out to your school and your galleries is a great way to do that. So thanks for letting us know that we can actually purchase this wonderful art that we see. And I know Aramount School has a long history and was established about 100 years ago. So, can you tell us a little bit about the background of the school?
I would love to. It is a wonderful history and one that really we stand on the shoulders of so many strong, mostly women and some men, that it's an honor to get to share a bit about it. So 113 years ago, the then National Fraternity of Women, Pi Beta Phi, decided to act on their mission of literacy by coming into Appalachia and finding a community that they could hopefully enhance the people's life experience, their literacy, their well-being. They looked at 3 or 4 different communities in Appalachia and settled on what is now known as Gatlinburg, but then there was no town there. So literally our school predates the
Oh,
town of Gatlinburg. So they came by rail first from the north and then by buckboard wagon. Driven by a driver with mules, and took 2 days from the train station to get to this little community of Gatlinburg. They met with so many of the families, just were confident this was where they wanted to bring about this settlement school. The families, though, were a little uncertain at first. These were women from away who clearly were dressed and spoke and acted in some ways not akin to what they were used to. So they politely and respectfully said thank you, but no thank you. And the ladies got back into the wagon and started their journey back. The story that has been recounted through the decades is that overnight, one of the families, the mother of the family, had a nightmare. And she awakened her husband and she said, "You must go get those women and bring them back. We've got to build that school." And he wanted to know why. And she said, "I had a nightmare and I saw our children drowning of ignorance." And so how profound, yes. So he is, as the story goes, he mounted the horse, brought the women back the next day. Several families met together. There was an exchange of money and property and commitments. And the school in 1912 began as a residential school for students near and far, who, if they managed to walk that far, if the family could bring them, they were there for the entire semester. And so from that just grew this wonderful outpouring of literacy, followed by a quick awareness from the Pi Beta Phi women that there was no health care. So they added health care. So many of not just the students, but families in this entire community benefited from the educational opportunities and the health care. It is said that during the Spanish influenza outbreak, if you could get to Aramont, you would survive because there was health care there. But if not, your odds of successfully overcoming that were not good at all. Also, what the women did during this history was that is really foundational to us now being an arts and crafts school, is they really encouraged the families that the way that they could contribute to the school's development was through the items that they made in their homes. So if you had something in your home, you had to make it because these families just did not have the economic viability to go out and purchase furniture, housewares, bedspreads for the bed, anything made of metal, wood, pottery. These families knew how to make them themselves. And so they would bring those items to the school to share for the school children to use. The families brought so many items that the Pi Beta Phi women soon were overrun with all these beautiful items. They didn't need them all at the school. Through their alumni chapters across the country, they were able to spread those. And this is what I give them additional credit for. They sold those items through their alumni chapters, the money coming back to the Aramont School, half of which supported the school, the other half into the hands of these families who, again, this was just such an opportunity they'd never experienced before to have their furniture, their pottery, their metalwork, their textiles and fabrics creations valued, and someone who wanted to purchase them. So the economic viability was important. Absolutely, the foundation to Aramont that was so important is it created the knowledge across our country of traditional Appalachian art and craft and just how wonderful it was. It took many decades to get the 12 to 14 million great visitors that we have here now every year coming here. If we'd had to wait for that, I just wonder, I do believe that arts and crafts, traditional Appalachian ones, would have been lifted up and valued, but it might have taken much longer, many decades later, if not for the work of these really amazing women in this organization. So that really became kind of the foundation of the arts and crafts movement. We started to teach that in the summers as an alternative for families to share, again, not just the items that they were creating, but the wonderful creative process and how to accomplish this. And so the grounds of the summer workshop season really go back to 1945. When persons from 17 to 19 states came to Gatlinburg for those summer workshops. And it took off with a great joy and a great success in 1945. And so now, 80 years later, we still have that summer workshop season and actually have added to it now to include a fall workshop season because, again, the mountains and Appalachia are so beautiful during the fall season. It's also a great time for folks to join us and be in workshop and learn these great arts and crafts methods. So there's just not enough to say in thanks and gratitude to this wonderful, amazing group of women who decided to put their time and energy and resources into this settlement school. But I also want to lift up those core initial families who really took a chance by allowing persons from away to come in and build the school here, and then building those relationships over those initial decades, not only to benefit literacy, to benefit healthcare, but ultimately to benefit what we now know is world renowned and recognized as that traditional Appalachian art and craft.
Oh, that's a wonderful story. It has so many layers to it, and it's also about protecting the culture and sharing the culture of an entire region in the United States. So I'm so glad to hear that that is one of the drivers of the Aeromont School. And I know that today, in our modern times, it's still a big part of the community in Gatlinburg. So, what are some of the things that your school does today in Gatlinburg, Trudy?
Oh, well, we have really grown and expanded in lovely ways. Uh, I think the first thing we do is always to ensure that we lift up that community of artists and makers wherever they are. And if you look to our mission, enriching all lives through art and craft, We say everyone can have a seat at the table and activate that creativity within them, whether it's a person who, swears. I will use my language. I still draw stick figures. I've never learned to draw people very well, but I'm welcome at the table to learn and to share with others and to see how I can grow. And that really goes across all the medias that we teach, whether it might be a drawing or a painting, it might be weaving or other textile and fabric work, it might be in our metal shop, in our glasswork or jewelry work, in our wood or pottery. We really are trying to offer up a diversity of opportunities. So that person who is already nationally or internationally recognized and renowned might want to come here to learn that new process they've not been exposed to before, or to be taught by an instructor that they've not had the opportunity to be engaged with before, or just to be in community with other makers and to enjoy that great energy, excitement, and synthesis that comes about just by all of us being in community together. All the way to again, that beginner who says, I've never done this before and I'm not sure I can do it. There is just nothing more supportive and more enriching than to be in that space where you're in workshop with folks from a diversity of aptitudes and opportunities and have them sharing and growing with one another. A wonderful example that I was watching a wood turning workshop one time, and there was a young woman, a very new emerging artist, who I won't say she was not being well received, but I will certainly say that the more senior wood turning students were watching her with great interest, but watching her from away. They weren't really closely engaged with her. And I went over to them, and they were mostly male, and much older than her, and they were clearly watching her process on the lathe. And I said, you really ought to go over and talk with her. I'm sure there are things as a newly emerging wood turner that she could learn from you all, because I knew many of these other students have been coming to classes and workshops with us for years. Well, before the end of the week, literally just a couple of days into the workshop, I was back by that studio and they were all gathered around her lathe. And she was teaching a process that she had learned from her community that none of them had ever had the opportunity to be exposed to before. So here was the most youngest, you could have said least experienced perhaps from pedigree or what might be documented, leading the class. Even the instructor was over there saying, I've just never seen it done that way. Well, that is what we really consider so valuable about our community if we're being successful. It's everybody in workshop together, sharing, trial and error, encouraging, but really seeing everyone, regardless of what their experience or expertise level might be, growing in that next step that they need for their own personal artistic journey.
Well, and there's a saying about, I think it's steel honed steel, or maybe it's iron,
Mhm.
but we have to have some friction sometimes, meaning get out of our comfort zone in order to improve what we're doing, no matter how long we've been doing it. It's sort of like why
Absolutely.
it's like why you get a personal coach,
Yes.
even
Well,
though
and
you're good
just
at
the
something.
encouragement sometimes. I just think of so many folks, myself included, who probably would not have attempted the journey in some of the media or some of the process without knowing that this was a safe and caring environment to experiment, explore, to fail, to relearn, and to move forward. And then it's really not failure. Some of the best accomplishments I've seen have come out of what another person might have described as failure. But it really was that next step in the journey that needed to be made. So certainly our workshops are I guess the primary focus of what we do again for 80 years. But that really, that welcoming of everyone, come who you are, where you are right now, and take a chance on yourself and take a chance on those that are going to be in community with you. And we are all going to be better for that journey. Those workshops, so folks are in residence here too. We're living and dining together on campus, and that in and of itself is a wonderfully enriching environment as well. Our studios open at 7:30 in the morning and they're open till midnight. But even when folks are not engaged in direct instruction, they have the opportunity to be there or to be in community across campus, whether that's sharing a meal, watching a slideshow, taking some free time and walking into town and enjoying it. It really is up to the persons who are in community together during that time to enjoy it. Those are for our adults. So you must be 18 and older for that. But we have a vibrantly rich program for our young people as well. And this was started well over 30 years ago when we would teach the local elementary school children the traditional arts and crafts. And out of that grew, and we would go to the schools then, it was called Art in a Cart. And we literally would load up a cart and go to one of the elementary schools and teach. The outgrowth of that is called Art Reach, and it's been funded nationally by the Margaret Cargill Philanthropies for us for many years. But it's really focusing on 4th through 12th graders, and they come to campus. And for so many of these students, this is the first time they've ever been in the opportunity to learn anything about arts and crafts, not just in their classroom and having to make do with whatever materials or supplies are there. But in this opportunity, they're in the studio for an entire day. So the bus brings them to campus. They're in studio all day. And then the outgrowth of that we have seen is many of those students come and take our community classes, evenings, weekends, particularly January, February, March. A lot of those classes are offered up to our young folks or to their families to come together to further extend and enrich their artistic opportunities and learnings. That program has now grown to a total of 6 Central Appalachian states, Tennessee to be included with 5 others. Again, thanks to the Margaret Cargill Philanthropies. It's a version of that art on the cart, but it really is in a large box truck. And we take classes for a week. We go into communities across Appalachia, typically selecting those where the school system has had to marginalize arts education, sometimes decreasing their budget to almost nothing, but they still want their students to have that great art and craft experience. We find as many local artists in their communities as well to come in, and we pay them to teach alongside our instructors because we don't want this to be a one and done. When our Art Reach on the Road experience is concluded and we have to come back to Gatlinburg, if we've really engaged well between those school leaders and their local artists, there is a very good chance that that art education will continue in their community. And so it's really important to us to try to help build those connections as much as possible. So I think last week we were in Virginia. Last month we were in Kentucky. We also go to West Virginia, Ohio, North Carolina. So it really is a wonderful opportunity for us to further enrich lives through arts and crafts by reaching out to those 4th through 12th graders. Um, in addition to that, we have a host of residencies on the campus. So if you want to stay longer than that 1 week or 2 week workshop, we have an artist in residence program. Over 100 folks apply for that annually to come and be one of the 5 selected to be in residence on campus. We have internships, fellowships. We have scholarships. Last year, in 2024, over $450,000 in scholarships. Again, to look at that enriching all lives. We would love to say that there is no issue of accessibility. And the biggest accessibility that we are focusing on right now is that financial accessibility. So if you want to take an arts and crafts workshop and have an experience at Aramont, there are lots of scholarship opportunities that you can apply for to hopefully make that journey one that is going to be a very positive and enriching experience.
Well, and is there a way that people can donate to Aeromont to help with the scholarship program?
Well, of course, what a wonderful question. Thank you for asking. Yes, our website is easy to visit. It's Arrowmont, ARROWMONT.org. And there you're going to find just a plethora of opportunities, certainly everything about the workshops we've spoken about the shorter community classes for children and families and young people that live perhaps closer to us, all our events that go on during the year, but absolutely there is a donate button there that can help to walk one through then what might be most important to you. You might say it's scholarships for young people, and so you'd want to contribute to that. Another person might say, I was on campus a few months ago and I loved the residential experience and I just want to make sure it continues. I want my support to go to operations or to a particular workshop or particular studio. So yes, lots of opportunities on the website. In lieu of that, if it's someone who wants to have a deeper conversation or come visit and learn more, we're just a phone call and a visit away to helping folks to make those choices as well.
Well, one of the things Dave Esslinger from the Gatlinburg CVB talked about when he was on the show recently is that organizations can arrange an experience at the Aramont School in conjunction with their conference or event. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, another area that we're so privileged to have and enjoy is our galleries and exhibitions. So there are currently 4 galleries open on the Gatlinburg campus and then the gallery here in Knoxville as well. So many groups are interested in having that quality time to visit and tour those galleries with an Aramont team member available to talk about the artist, to talk about the current exhibition, to just be there as a wayfinder for any information that they might want as well. So a lot of groups arrange to come to the campus, maybe just for a few hours, or if our dining hall is open that day, to break bread with us as well. And certainly to round out their day with shopping in the marketplace. So invariably that artist whose work that they saw perhaps on exhibit, that they might then want to move to the marketplace and actually pick up a piece to take home with them. So that's a great way for groups to have a short experience, anywhere from an hour to 3 hours. But some groups do choose to hold their entire event on campus. And while we're sometimes a bit limited by dates, just because of the robust workshop season we have and other activities we do, we are always open to exploring with groups who have that mission alignment with arts and crafts that might want to have their event with us. Some examples, a group whose acronym is SPIN, which is Silk Painters International. They come every other year and bring their members across the planet to us and they fully utilize our campus for a week to be engaged in their creative work together, demonstrations, exhibitions, again, that opportunity to live, work, and play together for a week. Another group that does that is the Spring Wildflower Pilgrimage. So that's a host of 1,000 or more folks who come to Gatlinburg and the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in the spring to explore everything wildflowers. And we just have such a plethora of wildflowers here in the park. So their instructors actually take over our campus during that week. So all the instructors living with us, they select an artist who is featured in one of our galleries. We hold receptions, again, demonstrations and exhibitions. So a wonderful time for them to be on campus at Aramont, lifting up wildflowers through artwork in conjunction with the days that they spend out in the national park, seeing the wildflowers in their growth and their bloom during the spring. So we welcome so much folks who want to have a little taste of us, perhaps, of an hour or two, or the folks that would want to be engaged and thinking about their significant event that they might want to hold. A new one we're welcoming next year, which ties so well with your Radio Free 501c communications. Tennessee is one of the last states to develop a nonprofit network. Many states have had that opportunity for nonprofits across the state to be organized and working together. Tennessee just brought that about in the last 18 to 24 months. And I want to lift up a group formerly known as Momentum Partners, now Tennessee Nonprofit Network, under the leadership of Dr. Kevin Dean. They are just doing fabulous work across our state. One of the first things they engaged with was a CEO retreat, and that was here in Gatlinburg this year earlier, which included a few hours here on campus. Next year, the entire event is going to be on campus, and we just couldn't be more delighted than to invite our fellow nonprofit leaders from across our great state to be in community with us for that event next year. So yes, anyone who had an interest in exploring an event with us here, David Bird is our Chief Officer of Operations, and he is wonderful to work with groups who might have that interest. And so we would welcome exploring that with them.
Oh, that is wonderful to hear. First of all, that people can come to the school and actually participate in the community, but also to hear that Tennessee now has a formal nonprofit network because Tennessee is the volunteer state. So
Right.
it makes a lot of sense that people would come together to help each other out through the nonprofit world. And our community is always trying to pull together and help each other, which is one of the goals of this podcast, is to share information and build some community over the airwaves. And Trudy, I know we don't have as much time today as we sometimes do because you're running a very busy school that does a lot in the community. So I know we need to wrap up. But I'd like to ask my guest, what is the one thought you would like the audience to take away today? And then how can they get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more and get more involved at Aeromont?
Thank you, Cecilia. Well, the first thing in tying in with the theme of this month, being thankful. It can sometimes be challenging in many walks of life, but particularly I think in the nonprofit spaces and particularly the arts and culture spaces, it can be challenging to find those things for which to be thankful. And so I thank you for focusing us on this topic this month because as I shared with you earlier, it gave me a moment to stop and recall and reflect the many things that I'm thankful for in the opportunity to be in the community of Aramont and be engaged with so many wonderfully talented and delightful artists and makers. I think the other piece I would share is that remember that this is about enriching all lives through art and craft, that there really is a seat at the table for everyone, whether you're that um, utmost beginner and you're confident you can't do a thing, or you're that person that is so creative, so talented, maybe even so well known and well recognized. There really is and should always be a place at the table for all of us to be in community together, nurturing and encouraging and energizing one another. A person listening may say, I would never attempt to make anything. Well, there's a seat at the table for you as well. I recall starting out my journey thinking that I was that person, but the thing I could contribute and the thing I did contribute for so many years is being that person who learned about great artists, who learned about their great process. And then anytime I could shine a light on them, their work, and their process to lift them up, I was doing that. So being that art appreciator and that artist elevator is just as important as being that person sitting at the table, perhaps for the first time, trying a new process, exploring a new media. So again, there's room at the table for everyone. And I would encourage folks, again, reach out to aramont.org. Reach out to me. My address, thughes@aramont.org. Call the school and they'll put you through to my office or any one of our team members' offices. But arts and crafts are just too important in the lives of all of us to not be engaged in a way that is most meaningful, most productive, and maybe even most safe feeling. So we really want to offer that space to everyone and would just love to hear from anyone who's interested in being a part of our community and moving forward together.
Trudy, that's wonderful. And thank you so much for encouraging everyone to participate in arts and crafts because it's not about being perfect, it's about expressing yourself. And that's one of the messages that I hope the audience takes away from this whole month of being thankful for the arts because it adds so much to our lives. And I'd like to remind everybody Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was 80 years old and is considered one of the best artists of what some people might call primitive movement. But it's very raw, it's very real. And if you don't know who she is, go look her up. It's great. So, Trudy, thank you again for joining me and playing us off, as musicians say, for Thankful for the Arts Month.
Thank you for this opportunity to share and be a part of the community. We look forward to much more opportunities together.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I would love to have you back next year and we can dig into some other topics. That would be wonderful.
Great.
But we have to go rogue for now, but we'll be back next time with another exciting episode. So, once again, if you haven't followed us yet or subscribed, please take a moment and do that. You don't want to miss any of the conversations we have here on Radio Free 501c. If you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips Consulting and how we can help your organization bloom outside the box, check out our website, roguetulips.com, and visit our services page. And then let's have a conversation and see if we can work together. If you're interested in sharing this episode featuring Trudy with your friends and colleagues, you can find that on the podcast page, as well as our library of past episodes so that you can get caught up on what we're all talking about here. If you want to find out what is on my mind this week, which, I never know what I'm really going to say either, check out the blog page and you can see some interesting ideas and thoughts there. And if you are interested in getting some nonprofit management education, please check out our education page. We are getting ready for our spring 2026 session for CAE exam prep. You can sign up on it for our Notify Me form so you get a message when registration opens. So that's it for this week. And on behalf of Trudy and myself, we will see you next time. That's it for this week. I hope you really loved this episode as much as I did. Thanks for listening. Learn more about how our experience and knowledge at Rogue Tulips can give your organization the strategic edge to reach its goals. Check out our website at roguetulips.com. We'd love to talk with you and see how we can work together. Thanks.